Hello, listeners. I'm John. Sitting to my right is Steve Reeder. Sitting to my left, Ronald James. This
Hello.
is Movie Schmovie.
Movies.
There should be like some like cool sound effect that we have
Yeah.
come in after that.
Schwong.
I feel like it should be like a game theme or something. It
or
sounds like-
movies. Movies.
Movies.
Movies.
Schmovie. Yeah.
Movies.
It's been a typo this whole time. The space was in
It
the wrong
looked off.
place.
It looked off to me. That's what it
Right.
is. I should have left the S.
So episode 77.
Yeah,
Episode
we're-
77.
And that's all that we need to tell you.
Good hearing from you guys.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
Old double seven.
77 is what comes after 76, and that's what we have to offer tonight.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
We have a lot of ground to cover, right? I feel like that's such a cliched thing to say.
I feel like most of the things you
we
say
have a lot of
are
ground to cover.
cliche, and then chaos ensued.
I think that's
We have a lot of ground to cover.
I think there's something really funny about cliches, like something very
What's funny about them?
something very cliche about cliches. It's like a pit that you sink deeper and deeper into it. It's something very funny about it.
Sinking deeper into that pit,
Sinking deeper into that pit.
or
of
up that creek
cliches.
without the paddle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. Let's think out of the box, guys. So yes, tonight we're actually going to do something we haven't done in a while, it seems, but maybe I'm wrong. It's been a few weeks since we've been in the same room together talking about new movies that have come out. Have we all seen both movies that we're talking about, or has Ronald?
No, I haven't seen Pacific Rim.
All right.
Way to just let them know what we're talking about.
All right.
Oh,
Well, there you go.
yeah.
There's a spoiler.
Well, you know, chances are you saw the name of this episode,
Botched.
so I don't know why we pretend there's any suspense. But yes, tonight we're going to be talking about two new movies: Pacific Rim, which came out last Friday, a sci-fi fantasy epic by Guillermo del Toro, and then we're also going to be talking about a new horror film that comes out today, on the day that this episode hits your ear.
Black
hole.
Devil Doll.
Black Devil Doll.
re-release.
Yeah.
Right?
The Conjuring, which
Conjuring.
is, though this doesn't mean that much to me, from the director of Saw and Insidious.
Whoa, that should mean so much to you.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that. We're going to
Yeah.
get into that.
No, but as it goes, I would say these were our picks for July, right? Ronald and I both said Pacific Rim was our most likely pick for this month, and Steve said
I went
The
with The
Conjuring.
Conjuring.
And I feel like both movies were successful summer movies for
I
different
said
reasons.
Pacific Rim with some hesitance because I didn't want to, and I feel very weird investing in horror films for an entire month. But this has been a dry month, let's be honest.
Dry month.
It's been a dry month. Pacific Rim, The Conjuring, and what else has come out this month?
July.
Not really. The Heat and stuff
Well,
like
we're still kind of in the middle of the month, so there's a few weeks
yeah,
left.
there's
Yeah.
some other things coming out, but so far it's been very dry. And then Wolverine's coming out. That looks like a shit fest, right?
Yeah, the
Am
new
I
trailers.
right?
The new trailers look all right. I
Yeah.
think. Like I don't blame them completely. I mean,
It's not Hugh Grant's fault.
the last
put it like
Wolverine
that.
movie was a shit pile.
Hugh Grant? Is Hugh Grant in the Wolverine? Dude,
Jackman.
I'm there.
Hugh Jackman.
When's the advance tickets go on?
Hugh Grant.
They went with like the British rom-com angle with the Wolverine.
He's playing the most charming kind of like, he's very kind of, he mutters things in an amusing fashion.
Love it.
His hair hangs down on his face.
You had me at Hugh Grant.
Hugh
Yeah.
Jackman.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman.
Dicks.
Well, I happen to be a fan of the story that they supposedly are basing it on from the comics. There was a story about Wolverine being in Japan, and it's kind of devoid of the usual superhero kind of storyline. So if they stick to the comic that they're supposedly basing it on, it's a good story. I don't know if they stuck to it,
Right.
but that's not the movie we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the new movie. So first off, Pacific Rim. I know you saw it, Steve. What did you think?
I was a big fan. I mean,
Yeah.
like it was a movie that I considered for my pick for this month. It looked really fun, which is I think like what I look for in some of these summer box office extravaganza type movies. But then when you say Guillermo del Toro is involved with a movie, and you almost say maybe there's something more to it. And there are moments in the movie where I felt like you may have gotten a little more than just what was on the screen in terms of some of the eye candy. But all in all, I mean, I think Pacific Rim is a super entertaining summer blockbuster action film. You're talking about the realization of what a lot of us as teenagers probably had in our minds, like Saturday morning cartoons, like. I felt a lot of like Voltron kind of stuff like coming in my mind watching this, but it just seemed like just like a mashup of every kind of action, technology, monster thing you could probably throw on the screen. And all in all, I thought it was a lot of fun. I mean, I think I'd see a lot of. Like I was telling you yesterday or the other day, John. It was like a lot of people that I know that saw it either said they were really overwhelmed by how much action there is, because you're talking about, monsters and robots that are bigger than any skyscraper or, any kind of structure that we have in this world. And to give that scope, a lot of the scenes are kind of overwhelming. But I mean, I think that's the world that they live in at that point, where that's what it takes. But I don't know. I wasn't bothered by that at all. I mean, I didn't really feel overwhelmed. I mean, I felt like the action was shot in a way that I was clearly able to see what was going on. And even like little things like the rain drops on the camera lens and like little pieces of the environment that you saw outside of the actual, the robots. I mean, the machines and the...
Yes, we've been calling them robots all along. Robots versus monsters. But it's actually, I think technically... These aren't robots. These are more like mecha or whatever you call it when it's like a suit that they're controlling. But I think for all practical purposes, let's call them robots.
Right,
They look like giant robots.
Sure. But I don't know. I had a blast with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I little things I might pick apart or, say slowed down at pieces or, certain plot lines I didn't really care for, like with some of the other pilots getting involved with, the little tension that was developed between a couple of them didn't really affect me or I didn't really respond to like maybe you're supposed to. But, I mean, I thought it was a lot of fun.
The idea of these giant, they call them Jaegers.
Jaegers, yeah.
Which is German for hunter. And the idea is that they've built these giant, controllable suits that are fighting off the kaiju, which are the monsters that have come up from these vents on the ocean floor that are from another dimension, and they're using this portal to invade Earth. There's all this setup that you get really in the first 15 minutes of the movie that sets up the whole story. It's hard for me to kind of looking back on it now, not filter my opinion of it through a certain amount of surprise that it hasn't been, the word of mouth for it hasn't been stronger, because I think it's a really successful, fun, big movie. I mean, the scale of it, and as far as that, you were mentioning Del Toro's name would seem to, would seem to indicate there would be this other aspect to it. I think that what he brings to it is that attention to detail and that visual style, so that it doesn't look like dumb action. And I remember hearing certain things about the way that he even though some of those scenes are just completely computer generated, but they would make sure that the camera was motivated. Like they would plan out their shots and say, okay, well, in this scene out in the middle of the water, where's our camera? Oh, it's on a helicopter. And they would plan out the digital shot in a virtual reality that would suggest what a camera could really do.
Gotcha.
So that even if it's completely digital, they're not just zooming around things and doing things no camera could do. So it's like the camera's either on a boat or it's on land getting a long shot or it's in a helicopter. Even though the environments aren't real, they made sure to make sure that all those camera movements felt real. So I think that it does have elements like that make it better than the usual popcorn fare. Sure. But in the end, it really is just a really, really well done B movie that, to me, had so many ideas and so much imagination on the screen that, I mean, it was the first movie in a while that I found myself a couple days after I saw it really kind of just wanting to see it again, just for the eye-popping aspect of it. But
I don't think it did as well just because of Transformers. I mean, you mean
the people's bad feelings about Transformers?
No, I just mean like it being something other than Transformers. It being, because I think the Transformers went over really well. I think it's a terrible set of movies, but people are very simple when it comes to the way they choose movies. They'll say, okay, robots moving. That looks like Transformers. I'm not going to invest in this. So I think.
Yeah, I did hear someone say it looks like a Transformer having sex with Godzilla. I don't want to see it. And I was just thinking like
it looks better than Transformers to me. But I don't think people aren't.
It's also like not a known property. It's like it's an actual. It's like an original idea, which is they're kind of.
Which, as a movie buff, like I'm excited about that.
Sure,
idea.
yeah, like you would say that's a good thing, but you're talking about box office. You're talking about. I mean, it's a good point you make, Ron, about Transformers. It's like Transformers is so successful, and they have all these films in that series because to launch it, it's a known thing.
Yeah.
It's a relatable. There's a reference point. Yeah. There's a attachment to it with a lot of people. Or like with Pacific Rim, a lot of people that are going to find this film are going to be people looking for that sci-fi aspect or that action aspect, or they're fans of somebody associated with the film. Yeah. I don't feel like this is the kind of movie or even the kind of property that goes out and grabs an audience based on its idea of what it is, because it is very genre driven. You know what I mean? It's not like a broad.
Yeah. It would seem. I guess what I'm getting at though is it would seem to me to be a very broad idea, just because it is so geared towards like look at this. You've never
Yeah.
seen this before. And the scale of it and the achievement of it.
The trailers make it look like Transformers though. That's the problem. Like it looks like generic Transformers. That's why people are very simple, man. You have like proof of it is when we're in the movies and you hear some of the things that
Oh no,
people
I
say.
agree with you. I mean, I remember when I went to see it on opening day, with a 5-year-old. Let's talk about my parenting choices at a later date. But still, I did find myself thinking, is this just too loud for a little kid, or is this too much? But I saw Star Wars when I was 4. So I don't think of those things as really damaging your psyche. But my point being, I saw it and I had this kind of excitement about it, and I was so excited to see it when it first came out that I was, I was willing to risk traumatizing my son in order to see it quickly. And I was a little surprised looking around on a summer day for a movie like that at like a noon showing on the day it came out to see not that many people there. It wasn't like nobody was there. We kind of had the similar conversation about John Carter last year, which is like, was there any way this movie would have hit huge with wide audiences at this point in time? It's hard to know. It's
Also, when it comes to following directors, they don't know Guillermo del Toro.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, then also on top of that, I also think that Guillermo del Toro still hasn't hit his stride yet. Like I think that he's made some incredible works, but his movie that's gonna like do it hasn't come out yet.
I don't know. I think Pan's Labyrinth was that movie.
Pan's Labyrinth was
Wow, someone's really.
It makes me very sad if that's the movie.
I love Pan's Labyrinth. I think that's an incredible movie.
Yeah, somebody's been, as the background noise, somebody's, I think, running a tub of water upstairs, and these are old pipes up above. So if anybody hears what sounds like Freddy Krueger noises in the background, those
spreading
are
around.
Yeah, nothing to be scared of. No, I mean, I think Pan's Labyrinth was a beautiful film, and I think that it won him a respect that doesn't necessarily transfer to a movie like this,
or to box office.
Yeah,
No, it doesn't.
At all.
Yeah.
It'll do. I think that this movie is gonna do incredible on DVD and Blu-ray.
Well, I mean, like I said, I would watch it. I want to see it again. It reminds
Yeah.
me of the way that, like, Terry Gilliam, when he sets up a world, there's so much going on in a shot. Yeah. And I found myself, and this might be I don't know if this speaks well of the movie or not, but I did find myself at times kind of looking at all the machinery and wondering how much of that's, how much of that was constructed and how much of that is computer generated and how much of that's a set. But there was so much detail. I found myself being so impressed by that even when the plot was moving a little slow, or there were some, I wouldn't even call them sappy moments, just emotional beats that have to happen for the story they want to tell to be there. And sometimes that does drag a little bit because you can tell a character is going to eventually do something that the movie's acting like we don't know they're going to do yet. And there's little things like that make it drag, but there's so much on the screen and there's so many ideas. And even though it screams out for a sequel, I mean, it ends in such a way that they could just jump right into this story again. Part of me wishes this wouldn't have a sequel because it kind of tells a story. And I love things that end, Ronald. I like, if this were all we ever got, if it not being a huge success means we only get one, I'm almost happy with that because I like the idea that I don't know. I'm sick of everything being a franchise and everything being part of a trilogy. Yeah. Sometimes you just tell a good story, but I think if this is a success or turns out to be one financially, there's so many marketing opportunities for this. Steve, you know what I'm saying? The toy lines, the cartoons, the comics. You could spin this out into a whole universe, and that is what excites me about it. Is that it really does feel like the creation of something new, even if it's pulling from a million things that are very old. But
it's worth checking out.
No, it was pretty shitty.
Stay away. Okay. It's a really good example of like where I'm excited about a movie and I'm like to my friends, let's go see Pacific Rim, and really only like my girlfriend wants to see it because she knows how bad I want to see it. It's like there wasn't a lot of interest in my group of friends, and I think that's kind of speaking to what Ronald's kind of was mentioning earlier. Is that it just isn't? It's one of those original properties where it looks it's big and it's bold and it's a lot of awesome in my opinion after seeing it. But just in terms of marketing and getting a new audience for an original idea in the middle of the summer when there's so many other movies coming out, it's just really, really hard. I mean, and the crazy thing is, too, that, it came out against Grown Ups 2. For the weekend, it lost to Grown Ups 2.
I was about to say, we thought it was robots versus monsters. It was robots and monsters versus Adam Sandler.
Yeah, which is, they're always going to lose.
Yes.
But yeah,
sadly.
It was in third place, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, it's the kind of movie when you were talking earlier, it's like the fanboys, the geek movie. It's a movie that Friday, when it opened, it's number one at the box office. Everybody that wants to see it is going to see it that day.
Right.
But then over the weekend it drops because Despicable Me 2 is doing crazy business on Saturday, as is, Grown Ups.
But taking in $30 million on your opening weekend, only recently have we decided that that's not great for a new
Yeah,
movie to
when
do.
the hell did
I'm
that
sure with
happen?
the marketing push it's gotten, they've spent a load on marketing that isn't even being reported as part of the budget. Maybe I'm wrong about
I
that.
think it also is just like, I think it's going to end up being, I mean, like on home video or whatever, it's going to make its money back. But from what could have been, I think it's
Yeah.
already been declared like a loss or a failure.
Mm-hmm.
Not a loss, like it'll make its money back, but it's after this weekend, we can talk about it next time. But seeing like what it does in terms of word of mouth, like if it drops more than 45 to 50%, then that's a bad sign.
Yeah.
The production budget that I've seen online is like around 190 million.
190, right.
So I mean, it's like you said, worldwide, it's just about halfway there. But I mean, usually a film that drops 50% or more, that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what it does. I mean, but
Especially not for this type of film,
yeah, at all. And it's in the middle of summer. There's tons of movies coming out. There's not going to be a lot of repeat viewings. You don't get that kind of business this time of year like you do with a lot of movies that come out in the fall and around Oscar season. That gets those people that go back and see it more than once. There may be a couple here and there, but I don't know that this is going to be one of them. I do want to see this movie again, but I can tell you that with how busy the summer is, I don't think I'd be able to get and see it again.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely say go see Pacific Rim. If you're open-minded to a new idea, it's a fun ride. And visually, it's stunning. I think all the fighting scenes they got me pumped up. I was cheering in the theater, like I was like, like I was into it, sitting forward, ready to see the next punch.
It's a positive message in that sense because it's about different nations teaming. I mean, this is going to sound a little sappy, but it's about different nations teaming up to
Right.
fight a common foe, and there is something kind of uplifting about the overall tone of it. I also thought Charlie Day and Bern Gorman were very funny as the two kind of nutty scientists.
They were a lot of fun. I mean, I love Charlie Day.
And
Yeah, same.
Ron Perlman was great in his scenes with Charlie Day as well. And I found myself thinking this. I just had the thought cross my mind because when Bern Gorman and Charlie Day had their scenes together, they're always around all these wacky gadgets and all this stuff they've assembled, and they're talking all this nonsense science. It just made me think of Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And years ago, they were talking about doing a new Ghostbusters and recasting it with new actors, and I thought, well, who cares about that? But I thought if you get Ron Perlman, Charlie Day, and Bern Gorman to play the new Ghostbusters, I think you got a pretty decent start on a
There
on
you
a
go.
good
There's a
movie
green
right
light
there.
right there.
Yeah. So Hollywood,
watch
if you're
it.
listening, we know you are.
Charlie Day in a Ghostbusters movie would be incredible.
Yeah.
I'd watch
I
that.
like that idea.
So yeah, go ahead. See Pacific Rim.
I'd say go for it.
Yeah.
Cool. So
Now, the one that you did see, though, Ronald.
Oh yes.
I heard you speaking after we saw the film in the urinal saying something, and it was I think it was about me. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, what did I say?
What did you say about me? I think it had
What are you
something to
doing
do
hanging
with-
out in the bathrooms listening,
I
Steve?
feel like I got to check it out once in a while.
What did I
You were saying something along the lines like Steve called it. I think you said Steve called this.
Oh
one.
yes,
Yeah.
you did.
I think you
man.
did say that.
You did.
I think
did.
I should have recorded it because it doesn't happen very often for you to
fucking
admit
called
that.
it, man.
The movie we're talking about is James Wan's
James.
The Conjuring.
As the pipes kick in.
As the pipes kick in, maybe
Very
this is-
timely.
Yeah, right.
Saw director James Wan presents
From the creators of Insidious, and I'm already out of the theater at this point. when they're saying that.
Insidious.
No, I will come right out of the gate saying that we got a lot of ground to cover here. Chaos will ensue. No, I'll come right out of the gates and say that I have been extremely prickly and hard to please when it comes to recent horror films. And there have been a few that people have liked a lot more than I have, and this was one that I greatly enjoyed. Pretty much from beginning to end, I felt like it had a lot of control over what it was trying to do. It had a real story, it had real characters, it had real scares, and it at just a little under 2 hours, it consistently delivered jolt after jolt. Not like, wow, this is I don't know what the fuck they're doing up there with the water. Guys. Let's see. Hold on a second.
They're probably watering the plants.
I don't think-
They could be.
it's
Hold
best
on,
to do
hold
it
on
at
just a
night.
second.
I don't think you're gonna be able to hear it.
So yeah, someone was taking a shower, guys, upstairs.
But more importantly, this basement, this house is not haunted. Somebody was just taking a shower.
Yeah.
We don't need to call the Ghostbusters or the whoever the current
The Warrens, yes.
are. But yeah, we're talking about The Conjuring, and I don't know where we exactly were, but I just want to say that I was in love with this film. Last night I was really bothered by the crowd we saw with, as always, people bothering us during screenings, talking and whatnot. But the more I was able to think about it and just kind of like, I don't know, just let it stew a little bit today and talking with a coworker about it, the more I realized, last night it was like I really like this movie, but today I definitely came to the realization that I did love this film. I probably am. I get what you know with your feelings towards horror films these days, and it's very warranted. I mean, like it's sometimes it's like flipping a coin whether it's going to be something that you even care to.
Or it's like
waste
you
your
get
time
very
on.
used to seeing a movie that maybe has 2 or 3 good moments, and then nothing else.
Right, you
for it.
usually see him in the trailer most
Yeah.
times, which is even worse. But yeah, I think this is definitely a standout film. I think this is a movie we talked about a little bit on some past podcasts because this is a movie that screened. I think it was at Comic-Con or something in last fall, and it had such a great kind of reaction at this advanced screening. It was at the New York Comic-Con that it screened so well that the studio actually
They were going to
decided-
dump it in January or something.
exactly at the beginning of 2013, which January is a horror.
Right.
A pretty heavy
For horror,
horror
it's-
month.
yeah.
Which actually just relevantly today, yesterday, they announced that Paranormal Activity 5 has been pushed out of October of 2013 to January of 2014.
Oh.
Which is interesting. I don't know. They didn't really say if it's because they're still shooting or they want to
Right.
capitalize on this horror. It's like January is now like a horror month. But anyway, that's a sidetrack. But pushing a film
Is there anything else coming out at around Halloween that they want to move away from?
Carrie is the other
Okay.
is the one I think that they're trying to
I
distance
thought
from.
that movie was never gonna come out. When is that supposed to be coming out?
It's in the middle of October, like right around
Man, I
Halloween.
feel like it's.
But putting a film like The Conjuring, which I mean, for most, I mean, looking across this film's like checklist, it's not really a well-known director. I mean, they can market it and say Saw, and
Saw.
people, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, they'll know it, but they don't know his name.
Yeah, it's true.
And really, most of the cast you don't either. I mean, maybe Vera Farmiga. If you watch Bates Motel or like good actresses, you probably know her name.
Yeah.
But not a lot to like get people. So when they put a movie like this in the middle of July, when they decide to do that, a lot of critics and just movie fans are like, that's kind of weird. Dropping a film like this in the middle of a movie like Pacific Rim or Superman just came out or other big movies.
Yeah.
You don't usually release a horror film in the middle of a summer blockbuster season because they usually get buried.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting that they decided to do that. It shows a lot of confidence and a lot of just they think this film is going to have legs, like a word of mouth kind of movie. And after seeing it, I honestly don't see how it can. I mean, I would be shocked if this movie does not do, really good business.
There were a lot of kind of filming techniques and just directorial choices in this that really did make this movie creepier. Every scene that there was a scare, there was something about the way it was shot or the way it was revealed or the way that it was staged that felt kind of fresh and original.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna say this again. I feel like I'm always re-emphasizing this. I just started getting into horror partially because of Steve. So the last good horror film that I saw was, drumroll, Saw. And the reason is all of these elements existed in that film. It's just that, like you said, maybe he had to make a Saw, and literally the elements that make this movie good are things that were practiced in that movie. The idea that the reason I didn't like Insidious is that it didn't have legs the way Saw did and this movie did.
What do you mean when you say it didn't have legs?
When I say it didn't have legs, it
Like in
had-
box
it had-
office or in story?
No, I mean like story-wise, it just had too many parts that felt dry to me that just weren't packed full of action the way it should have been for a horror film. No, this did a really good job of kind of changing the mood through chaos happening all over the place. It's frenzied enough, but still paced out enough that it feels, like I said, you can comprehend what's going on. It doesn't feel like it's being like watered down with just action for the sake of action. Everything kind of had a path. You know what I mean? It all made sense why things were happening the way they did, and even though in this world, it just the thing that made it so fun for me, like Saw did, was once you start to get pulled into the world, you start to follow the logic of everything. The demons do a certain thing. This couldn't be a demon because it was doing this. Why is this up here? Once you start thinking like that about a movie, that's when you're invested in it, and that's what makes it such a great, great, great fucking movie. And okay, last
You're saying
thing,
great. You're saying
Great.
three greats.
great.
All right.
So
Did you like
also-
it more than Saw?
Man, hard question. I think so, because it did something very intentionally James Wan did this. He had to have done this on purpose. He purposefully made it like an old school horror film.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of like 70s
everything
touches
from
in it.
like the way the title screen came down.
Oh yeah, I love that.
The shrieky sort of sounds.
The sound design is absolutely
the
incredible.
crazy flip angles, like when they would be running in.
You're literally touching on every bullet point I had to talk about this movie. In one breath, I love it.
Right.
Steve, I was watching it and I felt like I was like, he's right. This is the best. This is it. Maybe it was better than
See,
Saw.
I don't want to. I don't want to oversell it.
Yeah.
Because what I want to say to people is, if you're a horror fan, this is a really, really good horror film.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. It doesn't reinvent the genre, and that's what's so great about it, is that it's just a really good example of the genre. So it's like, let's scale it back a tiny bit, because I do think it would be possible to oversell it in the sense that it doesn't necessarily go to places you've never seen before. It just does it in such a controlled way, and with enough characters that you care about and enough kind of comic relief, it does still. What's the word I'm looking for? It still feels. It almost felt like it was a little bit of a pastiche of a 70s horror film, because of right down to the pacing and everything. But to me, it just indicates that they knew they had something kind of special, and everyone seems to have really kind of nurtured it. And there's this feel, and there's this. I mean, I love it when movies don't have sequels, but I can feel the sequel coming to this.
They've already, I think,
and why
they've
not?
Already,
because the Warrens, again, the real people that this movie is based on, they have tons of cases that could be turned into movies. And I even read an interview with Lorraine Warren, who is alive today, where she was stating about, they asked her, were there any other cases of yours that could make a movie? And she mentioned one in particular that took place in England that she said was one of the craziest things they ever encountered. As someone who doesn't really believe in the kind of paranormal aspect of all this, sometimes the air can kind of go out of an idea to me when I realize it hinges on you kind of believing this stuff. But I think what it did in the case of this movie was it provided that structure that we've talked about before with horror movies, that when you get into the supernatural, you need to have rules.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this movie having rules, even though I don't ascribe to some of the ideas behind the whole idea of like demonic possession and having to be, specifically Christian to drive the demons out, it gave this movie a framework that meant you knew kind of what the rules were, and you knew what the stakes were, and you knew what the answer to the problem was.
I love that the Warrens went to people's houses and were like, no, this is not that actually is what made me like it even more.
That's a really good point.
They went to people's houses and they were like, no, this is
you
not.
have bad pipes or something like that.
Which it would be shitty to me if I watched a movie and they were just like, every time they went to someone's house, they're like, there's an entity in here. This is evil.
Yeah, because there's no objectivity there.
Yeah,
there's no
you have to
honesty.
know.
Yeah.
You have to know how professional these guys are. Their gauge of what's real, what's not.
They included that scene to let you know that they're not charlatans for sure.
Yes, and that's a really good point.
I love that.
Because here's the thing too that really scared me about this movie is that I got this sense of once they got involved with the Perrin family, this sense that knowledge.
The Perrin family being the Ron Livingston and Lily Taylor.
Yeah, and
their five
four or
daughters.
five daughters.
It took me a while to realize that there were actually that many different daughters.
Yeah, this is the family that moved into this house the film is based on. But there's a moment when when Ed and Lorraine Warren get involved with this family, and they do decide to come and check it out, and they are telling them, this is an issue. Because you have that setup of them walking around and they go to universities and talk about it. They're very serious and dedicated to this, and they go to this house and they say, no, it's your boards, it's your pipes, you're fine. When they go into their house, the Perrin house, and they react the way they do, that there's something that their knowledge of the situation versus the ignorance of somebody that doesn't know it, seeing them scared and them react to it when they have the knowledge. That's where I feel like this film kicked it up for me.
Yeah.
Because it happens a lot. It even happened in Insidious, to a point when they bring in that woman and they're scared. But in this movie, it was just way different to me because I never believed that woman wouldn't go into a house and always say, yes, you're possessed, or yes, you're haunted, pay me. They were talking about that in that film. But in this movie, that never even came up. I never questioned their honesty because, the thought to put in a scene like that,
it's so good.
In some ways, you're like, that's a throwaway. Why do I need to care about that scene? But then when you see them when they get to the Perrin house, it really carries a lot of weight because you're like, they're legitimately scared,
and they're trying to play it off in front of all of the family.
Well,
they're trying to.
There's also a moment before that where you see that the parents have had this increased. The haunting begins pretty much when they move into this dilapidated old house. Which why the hell would they move into that shit box of a house?
That was a terrible house.
It was a good deal, John.
Yeah, right. Good deal. On a trucker's salary with 5 kids, what do you do but move into a shitbox? But no, nothing against truckers. I'm sure there's some really rich.
We just
truckers.
lost 2 listeners.
Yeah, I know. There's probably a couple of. There were like, think about people that listen to us on the long haul, though, Steve. They probably turning off in disgust now. No, 10-4, good buddies. No, but when there's a scene right before that where you see that the haunting's kind of escalating at the Perrin house, and then you see them get a call and they go out to investigate, and it's a different. I think that part of that was a little switcheroo because you keep waiting for the two storylines to intersect because we meet the investigators and we meet the family, and we keep waiting. When are these people going to find out about them? So like that scene with the family that was just having the noise in the pipes, that was kind of thrown in there also to kind of show you, nope, it's not that easy. It's not going to happen that quickly. Like, and also that this family is they're a little ways off from getting this far into it that they decide they need to bring in these investigators. Because I mean, imagine in your own life how much it would take for you not just to admit there's something really weird going on here. I mean, everything from bruises appearing on the mom's body to the kids thinking that they're seeing things and hearing things at night. Yeah. But it's nothing tangible until it all just goes to hell. And then at that moment, then it makes perfect sense that the mom would reach out to these people. But everything about it, like even that, the notion of bringing in psychics and demon hunters to investigate your house, it doesn't feel corny. So many movies, when they bring that element in, it feels like this is the expected element. You've got to have the person that comes in and says, this house is possessed. And in this story, it just felt like you said, Steve, because it felt like these were professionals who knew what they were talking about. We were watching them as they were kind of poking around. We've seen them do their thing enough in the movie at this point that we really are watching like the way they're investigating. Yeah. And particularly with Vera Farmiga's character, the way they show her reactions to things, and then later we get a sense of what she was actually seeing when she comes in because she's clairvoyant. That aspect of it was very... Again, a system of subtle reveals that create suspense and keep paying off. The movie was just really, I thought it was pretty ingeniously structured as far as that goes. Yeah. Which again, that's not something I usually think when I go to see one of these horror movies.
Yeah, and then sonically, I didn't talk about it. We didn't even talk about the sounds. Like there are scenes that are done so well, like the mic scene in the basement where one of the investigators is mic'd up and he's like listening to everything, and he kind of puts the mic down because he's like, nothing's in here. When he does it, he puts it down and you can hear how he's hearing it as everything's going on in the background.
Right.
Things like that.
And you can really hear in that scene in the basement too, you can hear we're seeing it point of view of the handheld camera that the cop is carrying, and we're hearing the rattle of that from the mic, that the guy's holding. All of that was like, it really puts you in the moment. So good. And to put you in the scene, frequently there'll be 3 or 4 adults standing around in one of these scenes. And a lot of times in movies like this, the fear kind of goes away when a person's not alone. Yeah. But this movie managed to make even a room full of adults seem like they were completely shit out of luck when this stuff started going down.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
the scene with the one daughter is getting thrown around. Yeah, literally all 3 or 4 male characters
in a brightly lit room.
Yeah, in the daytime. Yeah, I think it was in the daytime.
Well, it definitely was a brightly lit room.
Yeah, and like all 3 or 4 males are trying to stop it, and they can't.
And still
it literally it takes Lorraine getting scissors and cutting the girl's hair. But I mean, that just shows the helplessness. And
it's good.
I just and I like that as well, that there are some of the quick jump scares that a lot of horror films have, and even like Insidious had a lot, and even Saw. But I think it does a really good job of just kind of taking you up to that ledge of, if the next one had happened in sequence, you'd be like, that's probably too much. Yeah. I there was a moment in the movie where I was like, if it's another one of these quick ones, I might say, nah, come on, like give me something else. But then literally when that moment's about to come, something else happens. It's an element of sound or camera work. The camera work I thought was incredible.
It was.
All the scenes where, there's a scene where I think it's Lorraine goes to go outside. It's when it's towards the climax, towards the end of the film. Lorraine comes upstairs to go outside, and the camera follows her upside down and turns around and shows the sound guy on the second level of the house. Mm-hmm. And then it flips over again to catch her walking back in the house, and just continues to rotate. And it's really slick. I mean, it lines up. I mean, and it completely shows not only the scope of there's multiple things happening right now in this scene that are really important things. One with the mother, one with the child, and different people addressing them. Mm. But it also shows just how that motion kind of takes me for a loop physically.
Yeah.
Watching that scene, because you do feel extremely exhausted. Like, oh my God, this shit is going through the fan in the basement. They can't find this kid.
Yeah.
This camera's flipping around.
Yeah.
And it just keeps me off balance.
It didn't get boring in between the scares, and there were more scares than I expected.
Yeah.
And I would even say beyond that, though it does start off a little rough, like I don't know that Lily Taylor and Ron Livingston's characters, as far as the way they acted them, I don't know that those characters really jump out of the screen necessarily. I felt like some of that early stuff was a little stagey, and it was feeling a little corny, but I'm talking about for a few minutes. Like once stuff started happening, I really felt like everybody's performances really came up. And I thought, in the end, Lily Taylor carried a lot of really difficult material really well in this movie.
I think it was supposed to be, I think if they were any more out there character-wise, I think they would have taken away from everything that was going on. Like if they were too like
no, I just meant like, they seemed like bad. The acting was bad.
Oh, the acting, yeah.
Like the first few minutes, I felt it was.
Yeah.
What are we doing here at this house? It looks beautiful, honey. Don't you think? You know, there was a lot of that kind of stuff.
She's like that on a lot of stuff.
And are people going to
I don't
move
think
into?
she's a bad
Are people
actress.
going to move into a house like this? I mean, it happened in Sinister too, where they like just couples moving into houses where they don't seem to know anything about the house they're moving into.
Yeah.
Like in this movie, they discover a basement that's been boarded in. I sort of feel like if I was in, I mean, I guess maybe nowadays that's common. Is
this
to
was
have,
the 70s, John.
Yeah, maybe so. You're right. The
They
70s.
didn't have Google.
Yeah, not only did they not have Google so that you could get a tour of the house before you moved in, but another thing they apparently didn't have, because what does Ron Livingston ask for when he's heading down into the dark basement for the first
Matches.
time? He asks for matches.
Fucking long
I know for a
matches.
fact they had oil lamps in 1971. I'm pretty sure we had what we used to call electric torches or flashlights back in 1971. We even had a little thing called candles back in 1971. But no, he says, can I have matches? And if someone had asked him why, he would have said, because it'll be a really cool visual as I go down and I have to keep relighting a new match to keep it lit. However, I will give them credit for, even though that was sort of contrived that he would choose to light his way with matches, I do give them credit for when he did light a match, it was a believable amount of match light. So often in a movie, when someone lights a match, it's as though a whole team of lighting directors have turned on lights in the room, and it's very kind of, overlit. But in this case, it really did feel like they kept it true. There's a lot of scenes where someone's in a room and we're only seeing what they would see based on the dim light that's there, or based on what they could actually see, and it added to the atmosphere.
That's really cool. But 5 matches at the same time, and that's kind of crazy.
I love your detail that they were long matches.
They were very long matches. They were super long.
Let's be honest though, they just moved in. They didn't unpack the candles or the flashlight.
No, you're right.
John.
You're right.
Come
You're
on.
right.
Give
Yeah.
them the benefit.
And they were super poor, from my understanding.
Don't they have like a piece of wood with like a rag soaked in cloth tied to the end of it or something? Couldn't they do that?
Very Indiana Jones. Just hold it up.
But yeah, I did in being able to sit on it for a little bit and think about it. I genuinely did love this film. I actually will see this movie again in theaters.
Same.
I will need to see, like, I want to watch a matinee or something where like nobody's in the theater, because like I mentioned, like we always have issue. It always happens where a fight about it almost breaks out. People just don't, and especially with horror movies. I know I always say it, but like people just talk the whole time, you know. And
well, people seem to have accepted that that's what you do now. That like that's part of going to see a horror movie.
I guess I'm stuck somewhere.
No, I
else.
agree with you. Like I felt bad early in the movie. Now it's usually me that's sitting next to someone who won't shut up. So this time I was at least glad that it was down the line, but I didn't know it was ruining your time. But I did hear someone early in the movie when someone's talking to one of the paranormal investigators, Earl Warren. It's when Sherman Hemsley comes into the home office. The guy who's doing an interview with him. Yeah. Like the guy with the nice fro. The only black guy in the movie.
The only black person.
We only had one black guy in 1971, Ronald.
Yeah, apparently.
But when he's talking about all these artifacts he has that are possessed, and the guy asks him, the guy who's interviewing him, says, why don't you destroy these objects instead of keeping them? And he says, well, sometimes it's best to keep the genie in the bottle. And a woman behind me went, mm-hmm.
You always need that confirmation.
I just like the idea that she's a paranormal investigator. She's like, mm-hmm, we've all been there. It's better to keep the demon in the artifact. We all know that.
I think you're talking about Ed Warren, right?
What did I say?
You said Earl.
I never would have.
I don't think Judge Earl Warren had anything to do with this movie. No, you're right. It was Ed Warren, played by Patrick Wilson, who is apparently now the go-to guy for these movies.
Every time I see him, I think about Watchmen and him having sex with Lena Dunham on Girls.
Lena Dunham? In Girls. I thought you were talking about having sex with her in Watchmen. I was like, I missed that cut.
No. In Girls.
No, that was with Malin Ackerman.
Yeah.
That he's having.
There
sex
was.
With.
You didn't know that Lena Dunham was played by Malin Ackerman.
What? Yeah.
That's why.
That was
so often in these movies. One of my big complaints is and it's happened in this one in a major way, which is the person gets up in the middle of the night and they're encountering these scary things, and these incredibly noisy things are happening. And there's like 6 other people in the house, and nobody else is waking up. Now, I know some people are deep sleepers, and I know that there's, we're supposed to think this is like a big house, so maybe often there are bedrooms, people aren't hearing them. But I do think some of these sounds in this movie, because they've gotten so good at making that sound design so horrifying, that it almost overplayed it and made it seem like a truck hit the house, everyone should wake up. Whereas if they toned down the sound design a little bit, then maybe I wouldn't be sitting there going, this family, what do they do? Take sleeping pills before bed or
that
something.
big crash that occurred.
Yeah.
I was petrified.
Yeah, I was petrified.
Like, what was that? Nobody was awake from that?
Yeah.
That's a part of the fun, though, I think, in sometimes watching these horror movies, because you're like, and this is a part of the reason that a lot of people yell out at the screen, is that you're like, oh, don't go in there. And John's the guy's like, now, come on, wake up.
Come on.
Like, guys, you would have heard that.
Come on. One of you 5 daughters wake
Get
up.
the cotton out of your ears.
Right.
Like in
You
every
would've heard
other
that by now.
scene, everybody's laying awake in their bed, too afraid to sleep. So this one night, everyone's. But I mean, that's the kind of complaint that I feel like I'm being a fuddy-duddy, because the fact that it's taken me out of the movie is why I almost wonder if there's a way. Is it something that they do just to make the scares more powerful that in a way works against the reality of the film to some extent? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I would say the one scene in the daughter's, like the middle daughter's room, where the 2 girls are in the room, you were talking about the kind of tricky shots and stuff, where the girl hangs upside down under the bed and she's looking at the room upside down.
Yeah.
And I was so tense during that whole scene. And then even when she sits up and she's looking, and there's the indication that maybe there's something hiding behind the door in their room.
Woo!
That scene may have been the scariest scene in the movie to me. The one
It's
where
up
I was
there.
the most like just frozen. Because how many times have you ever been like in a tent or at a sleepover, or sleeping at your cousin's house or something, and you and another kid are awake, and you think you hear something or you think you see something? It really, I mean, I'm even getting chills right now.
I can feel it right now.
Thinking about it. That
It
feeling
really is
of
true.
like you're frozen in place, and you just, you feel like you're powerless against this.
Not
thing.
only frozen, but then when she makes the decision to move and like look at the bottom, and then she stops and she's like, I'm looking on the side, and she doesn't see anything. But then when she comes up, it's just like those decisions that you make when you feel like you're frozen, but you're somehow doing something.
Yeah.
And then immediately you're like, why did I do that? You know, you're like, oh, now what do I do?
Yeah.
And that happens like 3 times in that scene. When she looks at the foot of the bed, she looks under the bed, she turns to look in the corner. And the entire time, the other sister is sleeping still.
Yeah.
And she's only experiencing this.
And in terms of
herself.
movie language, there's
so
something that
good.
this movie did really well that I found myself admiring more and more the more I thought about it, was just what you just said, Steve. There's 2 or 3 setups in that scene where, based on what we know about horror movies and based on what we know about framing up these shots,
it.
she's going to lean down, she's not going to see anything, she's going to lean up, something's going to be there. Oh, wait, she leans up, nothing's there. Then she looks on the other side. Oh, she's going to lean down, she's going to be upside down. When she's looking upside down, something's going to walk up to the... Oh, wait, no, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And most movies just don't have this many ideas and this much to reveal,
and to keep you guessing. Like, I think that's in a nutshell, that's what I think of all the great things that we've said, or I will say I've said great things, and I know you guys enjoyed it a lot too, but I love this film. One of the takeaways for me is just that inventiveness of it's not redefining a genre, it's not breaking any real mold. It's working in a series or in a type of film that was very successful in the 70s, and there have been some since then that have been, in this same vein. But what this film does so well is it takes those sensibilities and puts it into a modern day rhythm. I think even though it fits really well with the pacing of those films, there's a rhythm here that gives you the quick scare that an audience wants. That they want that quick jump scare at times. But then when you get 1 or 2 of them, and then it jumps in with the one that John just said, where the girl, there's 3 or 4 spots where she should have been scared by now. And that makes you so uneasy when you realize you cannot predict what actually is going to scare you in this scene. And some films do it, and there's been a couple things here and there in certain movies over the past 3 or 4 years in horror movies, in scene, not as a whole. And I feel like this movie, from front to back, there's a really nice balance of throwing you off guard, where it has that quick scare. A door slams, or the clap game, I think, is one of the scariest scenes.
Hide and clap.
And those are long, drawn out things where you're not like, when is this going to scare her? Because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it just makes you wait, and it makes you guess, and you almost feel as vulnerable as the character does, having no idea what the hell is about to happen. And you almost get to the point where you're like, maybe I don't either. And there's a couple scenes where I genuinely thought that. The one with the girl in the bed.
Yeah, the 2 girls in the room.
That is one of the, because there's so many things. Like, the other girl could have gotten involved with being a part of the scare.
Yeah.
Things under the bed, which would have been the quick things, or in the corner. And even when the other daughter gets involved, there's there's multiples. You know,
Well, there's so many ways that's scary because even in that moment, there's the suggestion that there's something we're not seeing that one of the girls is seeing, or maybe she's only imagining it, or maybe it's really there, or maybe we're about to see it, or maybe we're never gonna. And it's like, yeah. I mean, I remember sitting there at that moment, kind of just stuck still, intense. So
yeah,
good movie.
I would remember in that scene just saying like, kind of what you just said, like the younger girl could see something. And I'm like, am I going to be able to see it? Or am I going to see it through the eyes of the older sister who isn't seeing anything, but is genuinely scared still? Right. You know, she's kind of playing it down like, what are you talking about? But you know as she walks to that corner, you know, that she's not sure, she's scared. But then when the door shuts, then she's scared. Then they're all scared. Whether or not she saw something happened. Yeah. And it affected them each differently because one was a little more vested in that scene. But
that's one thing in this movie. The ghosts are good at shutting a door in a way that makes it stay shut.
Yeah.
The ghosts are good at getting the door to shut, and then doesn't matter how many people are trying to get in on the other side or trying to get out on the other side. It's like
a lot of. Did you notice in the movie a lot of men were like, "Get out of the way, let me handle this."
Yeah, right.
Every time the door would close, a man would say, "Hey, let me handle this. Move." Never was. There's only once that they got through, right?
Well, that's one thing I do remember about the 70s is even at home we didn't let women open doors. They just can't be trusted with that kind of heavy machinery, Ronald.
I got this. Move aside.
But yeah, The Conjuring, I would definitely, I mean, as a fan of horror.
My daddy taught me how to turn a knob. Wait a minute, this door won't shut. It's ghost shut.
Ghost shut is super shut.
This door won't open.
It's demon shut.
It's ghost closed.
Ghost closed.
Yeah.
Ghost closed.
It does. It's like ghosts manage to close a door. It's just like there's a time release on how long it, it'll open up a few seconds later when it's not as scary. But.
Yeah.
But this movie also played around with all those little cliches that have become cliche, but it did them like even the scene when the team of experts comes in and they're setting up all their equipment around the house, a scene that I feel like we've seen 100 times.
You've seen it in Insidious.
I enjoyed that some of the technology was very high tech and some of it was super archaic.
For the time. Yep. You mean high tech for the time?
Yeah, high tech for the time. They're like, let's put strings and bells.
Yeah, and black doors. Lights.
Like that. And then they had like temperature.
Like thermometer.
Trigger. Yeah, I thought it was cool just to see how, they had two things kind of going on at the same time. They had this modern, for the time, modern technology with very simple ways of.
They MacGyvered it.
Yeah, they MacGyvered it.
Before there was a MacGyver.
Yeah, I was about to say before there was even a MacGyver.
Yeah.
But go see The Conjuring.
So go ahead.
For a horror film, anything, it's just a really, really great. Even for some, it's just a good time. I mean, seeing it with an audience has its benefits of the shared shock value and, being a part of that collective when you get that scare, the jump. So there are some benefits to it. So if you don't mind people talking in your ear and ruin your experience, go ahead and do that.
I think Steve had a particularly bad experience where that's concerned. I was annoyed, as you in general are, with especially at an advanced screening, you get these audiences that don't seem to care about the film as much. But horror films draw that type of audience too. So you have this perfect storm of people that feel like it doesn't matter how much they talk in a movie versus people that feel like you go to this type of movie to hoot and holler,
Yep.
And so you've got those two elements combining. It does cut through the tension at times. But the one thing I can say is that was a packed house, and there were some moments where you could tell it was super effective.
Oh,
and
sure.
Again, it was fun to be part
of
that.
And that at times can be worth it.
And it was fun to be part of that just as a horror fan and to feel like, okay, I'm seeing this. I'm definitely seeing a movie that I could recommend to a lot of my friends who are into horror.
Absolutely.
And not just ones who are open to new horror. This feels like something else. So
I hope and pray that this movie makes $100 million.
Me too.
Yeah. I think it can. I think it could actually. And opening weekend in the ballpark of maybe 30 to 45 would be really good. And
what do horror films usually do? Do you have any numbers, Steve, for us about what would be a success for one of these?
Pretty much anything that they made a sequel to, you could say on paper is would be considered a what do you call it? Like just a box office hit.
Yeah.
Well, also just in terms of keeping in perspective is that a lot of these movies cost nothing to make. Compared to a Pacific Rim. I couldn't find a budget for The Conjuring.
I couldn't either.
But I know a movie like Insidious, the prior one, made for $1.5 million, and it made $54 million. It's one of the most successful horror films.
Hold on, it made 1.5. It
was made for 1.5.
For $1.5 million.
Yeah. Insidious.
Wow, I thought that it was made way more money.
No, yeah. Insidious made for nothing. Like this year, The Purge, not really a horror film.
Yeah.
But I think some people would probably lump it into the same. A movie that was made for nothing, and it's going to probably be the most successful film of the year in terms of box office because it's already, that film has already made $64 million, and it was made for $3 million.
Right.
You know, and I don't know what the benchmark is for horror. If you could probably look up genres on like Box Office Mojo, but if it makes 50 or 60, 70 even at the box office, that's a huge hit. Because most of them don't cost more than 15 to 20 million to make.
Right.
You know, in most studio systems, because they won't invest that money because they don't usually get over, you know, into the 6 digits or whatever. Paranormal Activity films, like, you know, they don't cost anything, and they make over 100 million. I think all of them except for maybe the last one didn't cross 100 million. But I mean, I would love to see this movie because it's so fresh and it feels so good to watch a movie like this, and the fact that there really isn't a whole lot of people involved with it that would put butts in the seat. They're going for a horror film. Mm-hmm. They're not going for a name. Like, they're going, maybe if they say from the guy that brought you Saw and Insidious, but
which might have kept me away had I not seen all this great advance. Or wouldn't have kept me away, but from the maker of Saw and Insidious doesn't get me in the seat like with a lot of excitement. For me, it was the materials. Like when that trailer that came out for this a while back, where it was essentially the super creepy hide and clap scene.
Sure.
You know, that trailer got me hooked. Right from that, I could tell that they had a couple of good things up their sleeve. But I still expected maybe that would be the scariest scene in the movie. But it's in the top 5. But it's not by far the only thing the movie has to offer. So
sure. I mean, I'm looking at Box Office Mojo now. I mean, they break it down differently in the horror genre. But I mean, most of the films that we would probably be talking about, like the Saw films, like the 87 million, Saw 2 was the highest one, you know, in that whole like torture horror kind of thing. They have the Sixth Sense on here, that was huge. That was like the exception to the rule, I think.
Well, I hope we can be part of the word of mouth that propels this movie into, you know, so if
Please,
you're listening to this, if you're a movie fan
movie.
and if you do anything involving the movies you go see based on anything we say, you know, take our recommendation on this and go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
See it.
Go for it.
Yeah.
If you're only going to see one this weekend, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring with The Conjuring. I'm going to stick with my pick for July. Mm-hmm. But if you can see 2, why not see Pacific Rim and The Conjuring?
Yeah. Make it a double whammy.
Double whammy. You could just buy a ticket for one and sneak into the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So,
well, actually,
not
I think with both these movies, they might need your help, so.
Yeah. Good point, John.
Yeah.
So borrow money from somebody.
Borrow money from somebody.
But yeah, both great films, both a lot of fun. And it's kind of a great thing to have back-to-back weeks of movies that we really enjoyed. So it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Check them out.
Anything else, Ronald? John?
No, not that I can think. I saw it Old Boy
The
for
original.
the first time ever. The original. I'm looking forward to the Spike Lee one. It was a little more silly than I thought, but I thought it was such a good movie.
Yeah, it was good. It's got a couple of great scenes in it. You know,
Yeah.
There's that fight scene in the hallway that is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I was.
Do you think they're gonna stick with the crazy ending of that, like for the American version?
Well,
I mean, it almost seems like why make that movie if you're not gonna go there?
Well, Spike Lee said that it was going to be based more on the graphic novel. So I don't know what.
I think the graphic novel might be even more.
Even more crazy. So
yeah.
I don't know what portions he's going to choose from that and do. But yeah, if they did that ending, oh man, I don't know if American audiences are ready to stomach that craziness.
What I'm excited about
Dogtooth-like ending
is Gravity. Right now, I
Oh
gotta
man,
get me
what is Gravity about? Is
I
what
don't
I'm
know.
wondering.
Yeah, right. Like, what kind of movie is it?
I'm trying
I heard
not to read too much about
I heard it
it.
described as a sci-fi film. So if it takes that what we've seen from the trailers
Yeah.
and it turns that into like more of a sci-fi thing, I could see that being really crazy.
Every scene of her struggling to grab it is crazy, but the one where she's twirling
Yeah.
and reaching,
You see
like
her just,
extending her hand.
And then it cuts.
Yeah, oh man.
That's Alfonso Cuarón,
Yeah.
right? So he's like a great visual stylist, and he always puts together a couple of great sequences. And knowing that he probably wouldn't make a movie like this without having some mind-blowing way of saying all these crazy things happen all within one shot or something like that. So, he's another guy who, when you see his movies, you don't always know how he achieved what he achieved cinematically,
I want to see. I'd watch that in 3D.
The opening shot of Gravity is one continuous 17-minute long shot.
Okay, see, there you go.
Whoa.
That's what I mean. You can trust him to put together something crazy like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading an
Wow,
article.
I love stuff like
There's
that.
156 shots in the entire film,
Wow.
which is insane.
Yeah.
And there's multiple, like 8, 6, 10, 12-minute shots throughout the movie.
150 just
Only 156, which is low.
just 100. That's super low.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's gonna be good.
It's gonna be
I'm excited
good.
for that.
Yeah.
When's it come out? Oh, October.
It's in the fall in October, I think. Yeah.
$80 million. I thought it was gonna be way more money for some reason.
We'll probably do a fall preview at some point, guys?
It'll probably make its way on there.
Anything else?
I'm
I
good.
think that's it.
Go see The Conjuring.
As usual,
You've made our day.